Are you ready to unlock your full potential and maximize your productivity? Look no further than Productivity Smart, the ultimate audio podcast hosted by renowned productivity expert Gerald J. Leonard. In every episode, Gerald shares captivating stories, invaluable tips, and cutting-edge strategies that will transform the way you approach productivity. Whether you're looking to reduce stress, overcome overwhelm, or simply get more done in less time, Productivity Smart has got you covered. But that's not all. You'll also gain inspiration from real-life success stories of individuals who have achieved greatness through productivity. Plus, you'll learn the latest tools, techniques, and habits that will help you achieve a new level of happiness and fulfillment in your personal and professional life. So why wait? Join us every week as we delve into the exciting world of productivity and help you unleash your full potential. Get ready to take your productivity to the next level with Productivity Smarts. As a productivity expert and host of the Productivity Smarts podcast, Gerald J. Leonard has been a proud supporter of Kiva since 2011. Kiva is a non-profit organization that helps entrepreneurs in third world countries access the capital they need to start or grow their businesses. By making a small loan through Kiva, you can help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams, support their families, and contribute to their local economies. And with a repayment rate of over 96%, your loan can be relent to another entrepreneur once it's repaid, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to make a difference in the world, consider making a loan through Kiva. With loans as small as $25, anyone can be a microlender and help change lives. Visit kiva.org to learn more and start lending today.
Today, we're speaking to Dr. Jennifer Nash. She is the founder and CEO of Jennifer Nash Coaching and Consulting, and she is a leadership consultant and executive advisor, specializing in prioritizing people for power performance. Her firm provides services such as executive coaching, leadership development, and strategic advisory. Dr. Nash is also the award-winning author of Be Human, Lead Human, sharing insights on fostering connections for exceptional results. Dr. Nash, Jennifer, how are you?
I am doing so well, Gerald. Thank you so much for having me today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So listen, I always ask this question to kind of get started. How did you get into the field of obviously human development and executive leadership coaching? And what's made you so successful in your career?
Yes, well, when I look back, so starting out, I could not have predicted that I would have ended up in this place.
Okay.
I think when we look backwards, it's easier to see the thread, that connects through all of the different experiences in our lives. And so when I think about, me starting out as a young girl, I was a dancer, I played the piano, like I was very much on the art side of the house. And so those were hobbies for me, throughout my childhood years,
Right.
and even into my young adulthood. Um, and I also spoke some foreign languages. And so, my dad was very interested in making sure that I could support myself and be independent. And so he strongly encouraged me to, seek a path that I could combine some of those interests in. And so I decided to combine them in business.
Okay.
And I studied international business so I could use my languages. Um, and that got me a job as my first job working as a customer service representative on a bilingual help desk, helping automotive dealerships fix the equipment that diagnosed vehicles to figure out what was wrong with it.
Wow.
And so from there, I used those communication skills and I used those interpersonal skills in every other job that I had,
Okay.
throughout my career. And it really taught me the importance of, helping people feel heard and helping people feel understood,
Right.
and that they mattered, right? And when they called in and they were upset because, they couldn't get the equipment to work right, and that meant they weren't going to get the vehicles repaired that day, which meant that they maybe couldn't, earn the money they needed to earn and put food on the table for their
Right.
family. It really helped me start to understand like how important it was to have that human connection and have that interpersonal interaction and have that be something that mattered.
Right.
And so I went from that and I started working at Ford Motor Company. And, that was the first time, and I tell the story in the book. So if your readers are listening, I don't want to spoil the story yet. But I tell the story in the book of how there was a leader there who really, for the first time in my career, made me feel that I mattered
Okay.
and made me feel that I was heard and understood. And I really wanted to understand, why are there not more leaders like that? We
Right.
really need that in this world.
Right.
And so it prompted me to go back and do my MBA. It prompted me to go back and, do my PhD and continue studying into, what makes leaders great and outstanding, and how can we have more of them in this world?
Gotcha. Gotcha. As you were talking about that, I had some other questions, and I just thought, you know what? I think this is the right time to just jump right into your book, because I hadn't had the opportunity to spend some time in your book and learn about that story, and something that you call or talk about in the book around the paper plate, the paper plate message, and the person that you were able to get the message to, and the impact that that had, and the message that you received, and how that really blew you away and influenced you in a great deal. I'm kind of teasing my audience about this.
Mhm.
And so, more than getting into some of the other questions I would normally ask, I really want
Mhm.
to dive into your book, because, again, I was very captivated by it. I want to go back and study a little bit more of it myself, especially with the human index, the human leadership index process, and then now
Sure.
really understanding the humans framework that you created, which I thought was really cool the way you put
No,
that
thank you.
together.
Yeah.
So, the first question is, what was so important about your paper plate message that you have in the book, and can you tell us a story around that message?
I can. So the message on the paper plate was letting this person know how much I appreciated their leadership, and recognizing that what they were doing was so challenging and so hard. And when you're a leader at that level in an organization, it's pretty lonely there. There
Right,
aren't a lot of people that you can communicate with and confide in and talk to. And I just wanted this person to feel like, I got your back, right? You've got support. We're behind you. Like, you do what you need to do, and we will be there to help you. And I felt like this person needed to hear that, because they were doing something very, very difficult. And there was a lot going on in the world at the time. And
right,
so the message really described, I appreciate you. I see you for who you are and what you're doing. And I really appreciate that. And thank you, and just demonstrating that gratitude.
right.
And so that was really the overall message of the paper plate, what was actually written on literally a paper plate.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Did you have any resistance? Because I know who the person is, and
Yeah,
I do want you to tell us who the person is. But did
yeah.
you have any resistance at first in getting the message to the person?
Oh, yes, I certainly did. So, I will say, I think so. Part of the issue, I think, was that, this paper plate had some decoration on it. And I think that, when it was wrapped up, in a gift format, and sent off, there were people who decided that that maybe was inappropriate, in a way for this person to receive that. Maybe it was too childlike, or too, not serious enough, because it's work, right? It has to be serious. And so I think there may have been some resistance there. And I think also the other part of the resistance was that culturally, this isn't something that was really done in the organization, right?
Right.
And you know what happens in organizations when something is outside of that status quo. Typically the system will eject the outlier. And so
Exactly.
that was really what was happening with me, and me wanting to get this, paper plate to this person, that the system really didn't want to let that happen because it wasn't something that had happened before, I think.
Right. Okay.
So,
So just
yeah.
so that everyone understands the gravity and the magnitude of the paper plate and the person you're trying to get it to, who
Mhm.
was the person you were trying to get the paper plate to, and what was their role in the company?
Yeah. So the person I was trying to get the paper plate to was someone named Alan Mulally. And Alan was the CEO of the company. So he was the CEO of Ford Motor Company. And he was brought in essentially to save the company from dying. So
Right.
if you recall, back in 2006, the economy was in a recession and
Yes.
housing prices were dropping all over the place, right?
Yes.
The bottom was dropping out of the market. And Ford at the time was on track to lose $17 billion.
Yep.
And the current chairman at the time and serving as CEO, Bill Ford, he had tried to turn around the company, but he realized at the time, like this was a task that really needed, someone else to step in and take over. And so he invited Bill Ford invited Alan Mulally, who prior to him coming to Ford Motor Company was at Boeing, right? He
Right.
was an airplane guy.
Right.
And to bring an airplane guy into the automotive industry at that time, like that was unheard of. Like that had never been done before. And so, Alan was sort of viewed as this outsider, um, yet he was the perfect person for the job. We needed that type of new thinking and
Right.
new behaviors to essentially save the company from going extinct.
Exactly, exactly. Now, you also mentioned in the book that you went back to your desk after a couple of days of sending out the message, and you saw the red light on your phone blinking. And so, what was his message to you?
I did. So, I was I well, first of all, I was upset with myself that I wasn't at my desk when the phone rang so I could pick it up. I keep thinking because I had a doctor appointment that afternoon. I'm like, oh my gosh, of all the times like that I wouldn't be there to pick up the phone.
Right.
So I get back and I see this blinking light on my desk, and this was at the time where, we had phones and the internal voicemail was blinking and all that. And so, I hit play, and it's Alan. And he had left me a message saying how much that gesture meant to him and that he had a tear coming out of his eye because of it. And that he just wanted to thank me for everything I was doing, to help the company move forward. And Gerald, that just touched me so greatly. And I have that recording. I have it on my website. So if people if people have the book and they want to learn more, if they go into the resources section of
Okay.
the website, they will find that recording and then they can actually listen to it.
That is so cool because obviously, I mean, you had the blessing of him also doing the forward for your book, which I thought was
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
I didn't get to see the part about the recording, but I will go back and listen to that myself and even put a link into that so people can listen to it from the podcast directory. So I thought that was really cool. And I think it was such a great way to start the book because
mhm,
it made it real, right? It made the whole concept of here's someone that has been sitting in the ivory tower of some major corporations that you would think a message on a paper plate wouldn't impact him,
exactly,
right? And yet,
exactly.
because you took the time to just connect as a person to another person, irregardless of the statue and the title, it connected.
Yeah,
And he felt like I actually have someone, irregardless of where they sit within the organization, who believes that I'm the right person for this job. And obviously, when someone believes in you, irregardless of where they are, and they communicate that to you, it makes such a difference. What do you
mm,
think is the problem today with leadership? Because obviously, there's a lot that's going on in the world. There's a lot that's going on in our country. There's a
yes.
lot that's happening with technology, and there's a lot that's happened even in our government. um, what do you think is the problem with leadership today?
So I will phrase it this way,
Okay.
and let's think about it this way. So leadership is complex today,
Yep.
right? We have a lot going on. There's a lot of contextual issues, right? We have examples in the media every day of leaders who make decisions that are not optimal
Right.
and that have, lots of consequences for their organizations, for themselves personally. And I think that leaders today have this immense pressure to have all the answers, right?
Yes.
And to have it be the buck stops at their desk, if you will, and to be the hero, right? And save the day. Um, and I think, those kinds of beliefs and behaviors, they may have worked well 100 years ago. Maybe
Mhm.
they even worked sort of well 50 years ago. But particularly since COVID, with the changes that that has wrought in the workplace and in our culture overall,
Right.
they don't work so well today. And the problem I see is that leaders don't have the training that they need to lead human beings.
Mm.
We see from research that when someone is pointed into a leadership role, they're pretty much just expected to figure it out.
Right.
Now, they've been using tools like, project management tools and, task management tools for all of their careers. And so they're really good at that. And so when they get into this leadership role, they're tapped on the head and said, "Hey, you're going to lead a team of people now." Um, they reach into that toolbox to find some of those people leadership tools that they need to lead human beings. There isn't anything there.
Mm.
And we see from research that people are promoted into these leadership roles, and it's an average of 15 years before they get any type of people leadership training.
Right.
That's a massive amount of time, to
Yes.
to put someone into a role and not give them the tools that they need to do the job well.
Right. And it creates a deficit.
Exactly. So it's a huge deficit. And so what I see with leadership today is I see the majority of leaders, they want to do a good job. They want to lead people well. They want to deliver results for their organization, and they want to provide for their families, and they want to have a purpose and meaning in their work.
Right.
And what I see most often is that they are not given or they don't acquire the tools that they need to lead people well and deliver on all those other promises.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now you do go into the book and talk about effective leadership and leadership of the future. So the question I had was, what does effective leadership of the future look like? And in the framework of your framework, humans,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
HUMANS framework.
Yes. So leadership of the future to me has a couple dimensions. So first and foremost, leadership of the future is today, right?
Yeah.
We see AI changing the workplace so quickly, and there is so much fear around people losing their job to a robot or
Yeah.
people losing their job to AI, right?
Right.
And what we know traditionally is that when technology takes away jobs, it historically creates more jobs than it takes away. So
Gotcha.
that's one thing to keep in mind when leaders are trying to address this fear that is prevalent right now in
Yep.
today's workplace. The second thing is we need leaders to bring that human part of themselves, right? The part that does the creativity, the part that does the innovation, the part that helps people communicate and collaborate and connect with one another. We need them to bring that to the forefront because that is what they need to help people understand how to leverage AI
Right.
and how to help us be the most effective we can possibly be at doing the jobs we have. And so when we allow AI to take over that transactional part of the work, and we as human beings bring the talents that we have from the more humane side, the human and relational skills side,
Yeah.
that's how we're going to create the competitive advantage in organizations going forward. That's how we leverage the resources that we have by helping people be even more human at work and making it okay to be human at work, not just a superhero.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's an amazing thing because, the idea behind the Productivity Smarts podcast is
Mhm.
about being human. And it's, when it comes to productivity, it's multifaceted. For many of us, we've learned that productivity is about time management, about a to-do list, about getting things done. But those are the very things at the end of the day that tend to burn us out.
100%. 100%. How often do you take a break during the day?
Exactly. Exactly.
Right?
Now,
Right?
exactly. Exactly. Now, if you know my story, I've actually have taken naps during the day, and I've built that into my life, and I space out my time. And again, this is one of my origin stories. And when I started the podcast, is I had a major bout with vertigo, and it wiped out my vestibular system. I used music to help me recover. I was able to do my TEDx after 6 weeks. I was able to regain my ability to walk, but it left me with a constraint. And I had to learn more and focus on mindfulness and meditation and yoga and things along that line. And I could do physically less than what I used to do. But I started noticing by putting myself in a place where I was focusing more on being than just doing. And I was
Mhm.
being human and I was being creative and I was upping my energy, that
Yeah.
I started accomplishing more in my life by doing less. And I was accomplishing more of the right things and I was more productive in so many different ways and building my company and other things that I was doing. And it really turned the whole concept of productivity on its head. And that's the essence of the productivity smarts model, is how do and that's why when we talked and I saw your book, I thought I got to have you on my podcast, because it is about being human. It's not just about being a robot or being captivated with your priorities and your to-do lists and all these other things. It's really about being and then doing, but doing with respect to being and treating others that way as well. And that's why I really love what you've done in your book. Let me ask you another question here. You talk about the human leadership or leader index.
Mhm.
What is that and how do you use it? And how should
Yeah,
someone use it?
sure. So the Human Leader Index is an assessment of 68 questions, and it asks people to answer them um, given their current state, right? How they are today. And so it asks them to look at certain behaviors that they have, in the space of, like, for example, H stands for hearing. So, how do they help people feel heard, right? For example, do they paraphrase what someone is telling them so that they can check for understanding,
Right.
right? And so the index will go through and ask people, like, um, when was the last time that you sent someone a thank you card? Or, what was the most recent interaction you had with someone who was, challenged by something, right? So it has different questions around the different pieces of the framework. So there are 6 pieces in the framework, 6 dimensions in the framework.
Okay.
And then it also asks questions around relationships, because relationships are actually the glue that keep the dimensions of the human framework going, right?
Okay.
Relationships are the glue that connect us socially. It
Right.
creates a social fabric in our world. Relationships are how we get work done at
Right.
work. And relationships are how we live and love and learn, and how we.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, what does that acronym HUMANS stand for? I know you mentioned the first one being hearing. What are the other
Yep.
ones?
Yeah, so H is for hearing, and then U is for understanding.
Okay.
M is for mattering. How do you matter, right? How do you matter?
Right.
Um, A is for appreciating.
Okay.
The N, I took a little bit of liberty from, our iPhone, iWorld Mac, uh, iMac world, and I made it inspiring. So the
Right.
N is actually inspiring with the I small. S is for seeing.
Okay.
Mhm.
Excellent. And so all the questions are related to those topics, but that's kind of because I know at the end there you do break it down and then you go through each one of those areas of hearing, understanding, mattering, appreciation, inspiring with the little I and the capital N, and then
Yep.
and then seeing. See,
Mhm.
I really did take a look at your book and take a deeper
Yes,
look
you
into
did.
it.
You did. And so, yeah, so there's questions on each of those dimensions. And then once people are done answering the questions, and this is complimentary, by the way, there's no fee for this right now. So they answer the questions, and then if you take the assessment, if you put in your email, you will get a personalized report of your results.
Oh,
And so
wow.
the results report actually shows you where you fall. It gives you a graphic of, how you fall in each of the dimensions and like a pie chart. And then it will also give you some, what were your highs, what were your lows, and then what are some areas of strength, what are some areas of opportunity. And then it asks you questions. So it sort of coaches you through the results that you had on this report and helping you think through how might you want to shift and change, or what might you want to shift and change to get better at certain things, and then keep the other things sustained if you're already strong in those areas.
Okay. Okay. I'll definitely make sure I put that in the podcast link so people can kind of capture that, and then they can use the book to kind of help them understand the details of it. Because again, I thought it was really clever and insightful, and it really kind of gives you a kind of a baseline of where you are. I love the kind of those assessments where you get a baseline of where you are, and you know what level you're trying to go to, and then you get an idea of what you need to do in the different areas of being a human, right? Because that's really I mean, you think about it, this is so timely. It really is, because of AI and the technology and just the things that we're dealing with in the world, that even in the project management space and productivity space and the leadership space, it's what do we do when AI assumes the majority of the things in our job?
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
have to go back to being human. And some of us are going, what does that mean?
Right,
Like,
exactly.
how do we actually do that? Right.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And so this framework, this humans framework, plus the relationships piece that holds it all together,
yes,
those are the tools that you can put in your toolbox and help you interact with people and help you lead people and manage people going forward.
exactly. Exactly. That's really cool. Now, I have a couple more questions here and then we'll wrap this up. You talk about, what do you mean by recognizing the human behind the title?
Yes. So this is this exemplifies like the story we were talking about earlier, right? With me deciding that I wanted to share, a note of appreciation with the CEO,
Yeah.
right? If I had let myself be intimidated by the fact that he had the title of CEO, right? That was his role,
Right.
then maybe I would have never dared to do something like that. Because traditionally, like you didn't question authority. I grew up in a very patriarchal household, where, there were a lot of rules and things. And so, like, you didn't question those things. And I think I took a lot of that into the workplace with me. And I don't think that I'm alone in that way.
Yeah.
Um, and our workplace is really the way we are structured really comes from the military. And so that component of, you know, respecting your seniors and respecting authority and abiding by the rules and all of that, I think has a lot to do with that space.
Yeah.
And so looking at the title, yes, it's something to be respected, but I think if I had been afraid of it or intimidated by it, um, it's easy to forget that behind that name or title is a human being, right? They're putting on their pants the same way you are. And
Exactly.
so keeping in mind they have hopes, they have dreams, they have families. They're a father, husband, son, brother, sister, niece, spouse to someone else too. And
Exactly.
when you see them in that way, right, you see the different facets of them as a whole human being. You can't help but acknowledge that, there's this person here. They're way more than just an employee for this organization. They're
Right.
way more than just a CEO who's leading everybody towards a shared vision. They're this person who most likely wants their kids to be happy. They want to make a difference in the world and they want to do meaningful work.
Right. Exactly. So a couple of questions and we'll end up here, close up. And that is, and I always ask this one, who is your role model and why? Like, who's mentored you, or who's your role model, or like who's inspired you?
Oh my goodness. I have been so fortunate to have so many different role models in my life, and so many different people that, I have looked up to. Um, for me, I would say one of those people is Oprah.
Okay.
I am so inspired by Oprah and the ability that she has to connect with people on a human level, right? And interact with them as people.
Right.
I love how she can tailor her messaging and communicate in a way that reaches everyone. Um, and I also love how she does so much good in the world. I'm so sad that she doesn't have her show every day, but I
Right.
like it was a better thing for her that, it's time for her to move on. Um, but just, the impact that she has had and how she has helped the world open up difficult conversations and make the world a better place because she has been here,
Right.
is so inspirational to me. And I'm so grateful to her for that.
Excellent. Excellent. And then, is there anything I forgot to ask you or overlooked or didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
Um, I think the only other thing is, if people want to learn more about me, where can they go?
And that was my
That
next question.
that the next one? Okay. I
So
know we
where can
haven't
they
even
find out
talked
about
about.
you?
Yeah, so well, if they'd like to learn more, they can go to my website, which is drjennifernash.com. It's drjennifernash.com. And I know we haven't even talked about like any of the music or any of your backgrounds like that, but I do actually teach leadership through ballroom dance.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that would be interesting for some of your listeners if they're looking for unique ways, to build their leadership skills.
That is really, really cool. As you can see,
Yes.
with the video that we have here over Zoom, and music is a big part of my life, and I use music to as a teaching tool because there's so many things that you can learn from just the interaction of music and language and so on. And so we're kindred spirits in that way. So I appreciate that. I really love that ballroom dancing and leadership training. I can see that. I can definitely see that. So
Yeah.
Jennifer, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for the work that you've done. And thank you for having the courage to write someone a letter on a paper plate that has probably changed their lives. And obviously, from the influence that they have, that they've given to you, and endorsing your book, and kind of being that example for you, has actually changed your life just by having the courage to, reach out and connect with someone. And I think for our listeners, we can also do the same. Reach out and connect with others, and be, with that human to human connection, and you have no idea where it may go. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're enjoying the content and finding it valuable, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and helps us reach a wider audience. If you leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. Not only does it help us improve the podcast, but it also helps us attract more sponsors and grow our community. Thank you again for your support and for listening to the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Productivity Smarts, where we help you achieve your goals and live your best life. We hope you've gained valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your productivity and increase your happiness and fulfillment. Remember to apply what you've learned and keep striving towards your goals. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring episodes and expert advice from our host, Gerald J. Leonard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and unleashing your productivity smarts.